liftoff.
Hey, isn't we supposed to be having a fiesta?
Watch this.
Hey, isn't we supposed to be having a fiesta?
Hey, what's going on, Spurs Nation? Glad to have you here with us. Thank you for joining and hanging out with us on YouTube. A big Go Spurs go to you. This is the Spurs Q&A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and dive into that live chat, and I'm going to be taking your Spurs questions this whole time, right? So before we do that, before I start letting more people jump in and start submitting their questions online, live, right, in the live chat. Go Spurs go, guys. Just a few announcements. Again, thank you guys for 2,000 subscribers. I think we're already almost up to 2,200. So thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for joining us on the Spurs Q&A Sunday. And don't forget to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for our normal Spurs Film Room Live episodes, as well as we got some big announcements coming this whole week, but the real one is coming on Thursday, August 26th. So if you don't subscribe to Order on the Court, go ahead and do that, and we're gonna have a lot of cool things coming for you guys. So thank you guys for hanging out. Please go ahead and drop your question, your Spurs question, in the live chat. I'll be pulling them up in a few seconds. I just wanted to do this show. This is the second episode of this show. Very excited to provide another opportunity for you guys to engage with you guys, right? You guys leave a bunch of awesome comments. There's been so many cool comments on the video that we posted today on who the number one option is going to be for the San Antonio Spurs. And there's plenty of people out there, you guys included, that are watching right now that's seen that other video, that there's so many different opinions out there. There's a lot of love for Lonnie. There's a lot of love for DeJounte Murray, and there's a lot of love for Derek White. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think in the chat. Shout out to you guys, right, in the comments. Thank you guys for hanging out. Before we do all that, there was some saddening news that came out this morning about DeJounte Murray. His sister, he took to his Instagram to go ahead and post about it. And it's not something that I wanted to make like the headline or anything like that of this video and spark a conversation with that. But I did want to mention it on this show that he's in the thoughts and prayers of all Spurs Nation around the world. Those of you guys that don't know, DeJounte Murray did have a death in the family. It was I believe it was his sister, right? So his sister did pass away yesterday, I believe. And on Instagram, he took to express himself, and he's not doing all that well, right? And I don't think any of us would be if we were in the same spot that DeJounte is. So shout out to DeJounte Murray. We're all hoping for him and his family to stick together and be strong and get through this tough time, right? So shout out to DJ. I hope nothing but the best for that family, and thoughts and prayers go out to them. Very unfortunate. Don't really know the details of the circumstance, but shout out to DJ, right? Life's bigger than basketball. This is one of those moments. So we'll take a second here on the show in honor of DeJounte Murray and his family. All right. We're back. So, there's been a lot of conversation out there about who should be the first starting five, right? So that's another question that I want to throw your way. And are we deeper than we've been for the past 4 or 5 seasons, right? That's another question too. So those of you guys that are watching, thank you guys for hanging out. Go ahead and drop your question in the chat, in the comments. GM Funches is around here. Shout out GM Funches, Go Spurs Go. I'm going to go ahead and pluck these out and put them on screen, right? So I can talk about them for a little while. All right. So as these comments start coming in, it's a lazy Sunday apparently. So again, this show is somewhere going to go, it's going to go live somewhere between 3 and 5 p.m., right? This show. Uh, depending on how I can get it out, how fast I can get it up and out and stuff. So, um, yeah, so I'm just going to be here talking Spurs with you guys. So, um, something that's been on my mind with the Spurs is our depth. And that's something I want to ask you guys, how deep are we? What should our starting five be? Because when you start, taking away your preconceived notions about who the starting five should be, it gets very interesting, right? When I think we all love Keldon Johnson starting in the starting with the first group, but I think that's something that the previous group incarnation of the Spurs, the DeMar DeRozan, Patty, Rudy Gay, I think that's something that they needed, that roster needed. It needed Keldon Johnson in the starting lineup, and he proved that he belonged there, right? He proved that he should be starting at the NBA level and that he can, right? And he's going to come out and test you as soon as he steps on the floor, right? So I'm not here to say that Keldon Johnson shouldn't be starting, but I do like the idea of what's possible in the lineups if he does come off the bench, and then what type of unit will that make our bench unit? I mean, if you put Keldon Johnson coming off the bench, I believe that group of five players, whoever it is going to be able to just kind of take care of any other bench unit out there in the NBA. I don't think they'll be able to hang with a group that has Keldon in it. So, if Keldon Johnson is not starting at the three, I think we all kind of assume we're gonna go ahead and play this scenario out. If Keldon Johnson is playing the three spot, uh, you know, and let's say he comes off the bench. So let's say it's Derek and DeJounte starting at your 1 and 2. And now, really you only have Jakob at the 5. So you have 2 roster spots. So who do you, Spurs Nation, put into those 2 roster spots in your forward positions, your small forward and your power forward? Let me know in the chat, right? Let me know in the comments below if you're watching this post live. Go Spurs go. Thank you guys for hanging out. So let me know who you put, next to DeJounte, Derek, and Jakob, right? Because I think those are 3 locks right now. Now, if you can start playing around with that idea, right? You can start playing. Let's start with the 3. Maybe we go ahead and insert Lonnie Walker, some scoring, some instant scoring. I think a lot of Spurs Nation out there, wants Lonnie Walker to kind of be that guy, right? So maybe we put in Lonnie Walker at the 3, or maybe we go ahead and look at Devin Vassell, or do we look at Keldon, right? Those are kind of your 3 options right now. Maybe even Doug McDermott, right? Doug McDermott is getting a pretty decent contract, came off a pretty decent year. I think that he's capable of starting for the Spurs at the 3 spot if that's what they wanted to do. And if you're talking about spacing the floor, do you start Keldon or do you start Doug McDermott at the 3, right? Keldon has all the room and opportunity and time left with this organization to kind of grow into his role, into his maturity. That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, we needed KJ last year, right? So I don't think I think if we like wipe the slate clean from our previous 2 or 3 seasons, right? I think when we start to think about what type of lineup we want to put on the floor, it gets pretty interesting. So shout out to the chat room. Diplomat, did you hear of the Spurs trading for All right, guys. So having a little bit of technical difficulties right here with, let me see if my mic is still connected. Wouldn't be an episode on Spurs Film Room if there wasn't at least one technical difficulty, right? So thank you guys for still sticking around. Diplomat 26, I was in the middle of asking you. I'm still going to be trying to connect my camera here for a second, guys. But you let me know if that's the player from Toronto. All right. Yeah, Juan Iboa says, honestly, it's better for us to make tanking, right? So, okay, so Johan says that we should be looking for the lottery and looking for, oh, got my camera back. What's up? What's up, Spurs Nation, right? So, okay, so thank you guys for hanging out. Tanking, I don't think it's in the realm of possibility, Johan, because the Spurs are a team that are always looking to win games, right? And push for a championship. And sometimes we're further away than others, right? Even with the big three, some years we're a little bit further away from the ship than we were other years, right? So I don't think we do that, right? I think it's going to happen organically. We'll figure out another way to get back to the top. We haven't a franchise player. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. You know, the opportunity is there for these young guys to prove something, where that opportunity hasn't been there before. So that's what I would say about that. GM Funches says maybe Murray, Lonnie, Kelden, Yak, and Pirtle, right? So you insert Lonnie at the 2, put Derek White coming off the bench, right? GM Funches, he says, I think Derek White is great in the Manu position. Let me say this for a little bit. I'm gonna stick on this one for a little while. 2 years ago, when DeJounte Murray came back off of his injury and Derek White had just came off of a playoff berth and losing in the first round in 7 games against the Denver Nuggets, I thought it was going to be more of a transition for DJ to get back, to where he was. But the Spurs threw him in the fire right away. They gave him the starting spot right away, and we brought Derek White off the bench that season, which inevitably was the bubble year, right? But that season felt like it took 2 or 3 years, right? But that season started off with Derek White coming off the bench, and they really split the time. They really split the time away from each other. It was very balanced. The minutes, the production, everything was pretty balanced, right? And I think towards the end of the season, before the NBA went out on hiatus, Derek White played a little bit more minutes with DeJounte, and they started experimenting with them together. But it didn't happen right away, right? And we all kind of assumed that it should happen right away, but the Spurs took their time with that, right? So out of that sample size, I don't like it. I don't like, I'm a real big I'm a real big advocate for putting the ball in Derek White's hands from the get-go, from the start. I feel like you need the ball in his hands from the start in order to punch first. I think Derek White's one of those point guards that he's going to come in, he's going to execute, and he's going to make the defense pay. And we need that more in the starting unit than we do coming off the bench. That's just my opinion. Alex Lifeson says Kelden has to start. Man, I agree with you. That was kind of my whole saying last season, was that we needed Kelden. It was like, if we did not have Kelden in the starting unit, we were in trouble, because we needed someone to do all the things that he did, the 50-50 plays, the hustle plays, the getting the offensive rebounds, creating extra possessions for the Spurs, right? And that was invaluable. Like there was nothing you can put a price on that for anything with the previous group that we had. Now with this group, we have a little bit more size, a little bit more versatility. We have a little bit more depth, right? So do we need to start Kelden at the 3? I wouldn't be mad about it. Obviously, I love Kelden, big Kelden fan. I think that, playing in the Olympics is only going to, launch him to another level when he comes back and plays into the NBA. So in whatever role that is, I'm okay with. But I totally understand the argument that Kelden needs to start, right? Because you keep the opponent in check, right? Like Kelden's not going to wait on you. Kelden's not going to wait for, the guy he's guarding to punch first. He's going to go out and punch first. So, that's good to have that guy on your squad. Diplomat says, oh yeah, that's right. He plays for the Pistons. That's right. I knew it was like a white and red team. That's right. For the Pistons. I'm not really too knowledgeable on him, but I am aware of him. So if we're trying to snag him from Detroit. I wonder why, or if we're packaging that and I don't know why. I don't know what Detroit would want from us. So that's interesting. Alex Lifeson says, how many minutes does Trey Jones and Simonich get? I think right now the runway is open, and I would be expecting, even though every time I make some type of prediction about the minutes, and usually I'm wrong, right, about that. So Trey Jones and Simonich, I would hope that they get anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes a game, right? Trey Jones, maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the end of each quarter. Simonich, I would like to see him get inserted early, maybe even start, right? And he pulled down 7 to 10 minutes a half, right? 7 to 10 minutes and a half, right? So he can get 14 to 20 minutes a game. I would like that very much for Luca Simonich. Y'all let me know how many minutes you guys think Trey Jones and Luca Simonich should play on the floor together. Sham ready. With the addition of Dougie, Doug, and Thad and Jock, how do you think we will see Luca get meaningful minutes? That's a good question. I mean, one, we shouldn't feel bad for Luca that there's competition around him for minutes. So that keeps you honest, that keeps you on your toes, that keeps you pushing, that keeps you trying to outplay someone and try to prove yourself, right? That you're better than whoever's around you. And it's up to the coaching staff to answer that question if you're asking me, Sham. Dougie is definitely going to get minutes. That's guaranteed. He's going to have a load to carry this season. Coming off of the previous season that he had, and he's a proven shot maker, and that you pay him $14 million a year, and you're gonna play him like that, right? So I would say Doug McDermott does get maybe more of a load and responsibility for the squad than Luca does. I still think Luca can start, but Doug can play more minutes, if that makes any sense. Thad, I'd love the idea of Thad starting because he's a veteran, and we need that veteran leadership, and he can still play. He played great for Chicago, so I like that. Jock is the one that I don't see coming in and stealing minutes from Luca. I think Doug can, Thaddeus can, but Jock, I see him playing more of a stretch 5 role, and I see him playing the 4 as well. But it's going to be interesting. Maybe him and Zach Collins can play well together. I don't really see Luca, because he's been in the system and being developed for so long. I think Jock's a great player, smart player, high caliber winner. I just don't think. I think he's more looking to battle for minutes, like from guys like Zach Collins and Drew Ebanks, right? Jock. So that's my question. That's a good question. Thank you for the question, Shams. Rob Reyes says Murray is good, but I don't think he's it. Primo, Johnson, Walker have star potential. Also, Simonich if he plays defense. Okay, so start with the first part. Murray is good, but you don't think he's it. Like he's the guy, that number one guy. That's really yet to be seen. I would say based off the sample size that we have, I think that's fair if you want to say that. But we really haven't seen him get the minutes that a lot of these other top point guards and shooting guards in the league get. He doesn't get that same role in expansion and opportunity to really go to work. And I think last year he took a step in that direction, and he was almost all NBA defense. He was almost this and almost that, but he had a great year for the Spurs statistically. And I think we're just adding to his role every year. And I think he's been able to handle the responsibility, the little more that he gets every year. And I wouldn't be surprised if we give him a little bit more responsibility in scoring the ball and being a threat, and him flourishing with that opportunity. I can totally see Murray do that. But if you want to ask me, like right now, star potential, I think you're right on the money, Rob. I think Primo has something so like majestical about him. It's like he's just he's just gonna stand there or sit there on the bench, or he's he's not gonna be too involved, but he's gonna be like glowing when he's there. He's gonna just have this glow about him, right? It's just like, bro, this guy Primo is something else. Johnson, obviously, we know is cut from a different cloth and is going to bring it every single night. Walker has the star potential for real, like that. For real, he can be a Swiss Army knife scorer in this league for like another 15 years potential, right? Like if he can put it together, think like Lou Williams. I can see him kind of being like a Lou Williams type of guy, a guaranteed bucket, you know what I mean? Like in time. Lonnie Walker can do it from the 3, he can do it from the mid-range, he can obviously get to the rim. I think with Lonnie, The only areas that he really needs to improve on is his defensive awareness, communication, rotations, everything on the defensive side. He needs to kind of sharpen up and just not be a liability. And I think if he can go out there and just be solid on the defensive end and get out and run and really have that role and opportunity to score the ball, I think the sky's the limit for someone like Lonnie. So I definitely kind of see your point here, Rob, but I wouldn't count out Murray just yet. GM Bunches says, would you want to distribute the ball for the second unit? Distribute the ball. Like, I don't know if you mean like the second unit moving the ball a lot and kind of just creating off of, driving to the hole and creating for others. You know what? That's a good question. I think that's what's gonna happen. But if we balance this rotation right, there should be plenty of maybe like scenarios where we can have a guy coming off the bench that we can actually get a bucket from. Guys like Vassell, right? Guys like if Doug McDermott comes off, right? So we might have a good shot there with our bench. We're actually pretty deep. All right, here we go. OTO says, do you think the PAFTO should construct the roster? Who needs to stay? Who needs to go? As we have, I believe, 17 contracts. PAFTO, is that y'all, can you guys explain that abbreviation to me? I believe you're talking about the front office, right? Who needs to stay, who needs to go, as I believe that we have 17 contracts. Yeah, we do have 17. We have to get down to 15. We talked about that on my last episode also with the guys from At the Line, and they had the Spurs playing out this kind of pickle that we're in by shipping off, like Al-Farouq Aminu and Chandler Hutchinson. Those are two guys on the squad that maybe, they would like for us to move some of those pieces out, keep some of the pieces that we've been growing and developing here in-house, like Drew Ebanks, and bring the roster down that way. And I agree. I think that's a good look for the Spurs moving forward. So I think that's what we should do. Jock and Thad belong together. I would like to see them play on the floor together. That would be tight. Good comment there, Greg. Axel Aquino says, thoughts on your ideal starting five. I think you start Derek and DeJounte, and you really just start asking yourself, what type of team do we want to be? What type of offenses do we want to run? Because I think defensively, you have those two guys on the floor. You kind of put whoever else on the floor next to them, you're going to be okay defensively. So, what do they need? They need shooters. They need floor spacers. So you start looking at your roster. Okay, who can we insert next to DeJounte and Derek, and to really open up the floor for them? And I think you start talking about putting in shooters. So, this is just one idea of a starting five. Now, the one that I want to throw out there on game one and say this is my first group, no matter what, this isn't that, right? But I would like to see, if I'm thinking about building around those two guys, let's play with that idea. I think you put Doug McDermott at the 3 to start immediately opening up the floor and floor spacing. And then I think you put Luca at the 4, who can also be that pick and pop threat, right? He's going to be that threat that's just going to be setting screen after screen after screen and popping out to that 3-point line and just catching them and knocking them down off the pick and roll, right? So I think you go Dougie, Luca, and then you go Jakob at the 5. I think Jakob's really the only one there. And I was kind of talking about this too on the episode with At the Line, is that, obviously Lonnie's kind of in a hot seat with this contract year. I think that's who they were talking about, Lonnie primarily, but I had Jakob just to kind of be different, but it makes sense. Like, Jakob, I think, is the automatic starting 5, but I wouldn't say he's a lock there if he gets outplayed. I think if Collins comes in, or Yacht comes in, or Drew even, I love the episode. I don't know if you guys hanging out right now, go subscribe to I've been talking about them a lot. The At the Line guys, excuse me, did a Q&A with Drew Ebanks. Yeah, it's awesome episode. So go ahead and check it out. But if Drew Ebanks can get an expansion in his role on the floor offensively, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see what Drew can be, like what type of threat he can be, because we know he's a rebounding threat. He's going to be setting hard screens. He's going to be, trying to dunk on people, and he's thrived in that role for a few years. But if you go, like I said, if you go back and listen to that episode, on their channel with that interview with Drew Eubanks. If Drew Eubanks starts shooting the three and starts opening up his jump shot a little bit, and the coach has confidence in that, and they're adding that to his role, it's very easy that he can jump over Jakob, in my opinion, just because Jakob doesn't have that offensive threat. Now, if you're getting plenty of buckets with that starting five, if you have Doug McDermott and Luca in there, and they're actually shooting the ball like at above 35-36% rate from the 3-point line, closer to 40, even higher. You know what I mean? Then maybe you don't need to start Drew for his offense, but you keep Jakob in there for the defense. So I think that's what I'm going to go with today. Axel, today. All right. So GM Funches says it's Primo's hair. Primo's hair is sick, right? Don't ever cut it. Don't ever cut it, Primo. All right. Let's see. Willie5 says, I have a feeling that Aminu gets cut or traded, maybe to a contender, and Drew Eubanks takes his spot on the lineup. Different positions, but I agree. Like on the roster, right? I agree. If I had to keep one, Thad or Aminu, obviously I keep that, and I play him out his whole year. I don't care that he's on an expiring deal. I really don't. I really don't care to ship him off at the trade deadline for assets. I really don't. I like the idea of Thad. And if we can be competitive and actually win a lot of games with him, then we keep him to the end of the year. Maybe even try to bring him back at the end of next season. I see us do that instead of trying to ship that off and us tank for the draft. I just don't see that happening. I just don't see the Spurs being that bad where we're going to be a bottom 5 team. I just don't see it. There's no way with this roster that they put together. Shout out Brian Wright, right? Okay, let's see. GM Funches clarifies. Sorry, I meant who do you want to distribute the ball for the second unit if you want DJ and Derek White starting? So who's going to be the backup point guard? Man, that's a good question. I would love to just be there in practice to see how that plays out, because I think you throw Trey Jones, Bryn Forbes, and maybe even Lonnie Walker if he's not starting. You put the ball in their hands, as you start scrimmaging, you start going up and down the floor, you start putting the ball in their hands, and you start looking at different things. Who's running the show better? Who's scoring better? Can one of them score? Can the other one, run our sets? Who's the better defender? Who's getting everyone else involved? Who's making that second unit click, right? And I think that's your answer. I don't think it's so clear, cut and dry right now. But yes, if you want to start them two together, DJ and Derek White, that backup spot's open for minutes. If you ask me, I think maybe Bryn Forbes takes it because he's already experienced in the role, and I think he can execute whatever the coaches want him to do. Right, like, hey, we need you to do this and that. I think Bryn Forbes is savvy enough, obviously veteran enough to go ahead and do that, where some of these other guys might be a little, streaky with that. Okay. Alex asks, Lifeson says, do you think the backcourt needs to be thinned out? I don't. I think that's a trend that the Spurs have been leaning on for a while now, even back in the Big Three era, like George Hill era, right? Like we always had 3-4 point guards, right? And then we had a couple shooting guards, and we spent 8-9 roster spots on the perimeter, right? In our backcourt perimeter. And I think that's about right for the NBA and where it is today. So I like being guard heavy. And right now, I would say we're more forward heavy than anything else, right? Technically, we have we have Devin Vassell, Kelden Johnson, Luca Simonich, Thaddeus Young, Al-Farouq Aminu, Chandler Hutchinson, Zach Collins can play the power forward. Right. So we're pretty deep at all of our spots right now. So thank you, OTO. Says is Popovich and the front office. I did not know that. I've seen that so many times, like on Twitter and stuff, and I just always thought they meant like this, the staff, the guys in charge. So that's good to know. Thank you. Willie says DJ, Derek White, McDermott, KJ, Jakob. I like it. That's the most likely starting 5 in your opinion, just because Pop. I wouldn't be surprised, Willie, of that if that's what we get in the beginning of training camp, right? So, or sorry, not training camp, preseason. I definitely see us throwing this lineup out there during the preseason and seeing how it goes. Sean Michael says, "What's up, Spurs fan?" What's up, Sean Michael? All right, let me go ahead and kind of keep going down. Shout out to Greg Castillo. Thank you for the tip, my man. I really appreciate you. Guys, go ahead and follow Gregory's Twitter as well, Spurs versus everybody, and the channel that he's got going on there. Shout out to you, Greg. Axel says, don't know if there's cap on how many questions we can ask in the chat, but the new guy you're looking toward this season, for me, it's Landale, right? Really hope he balls out and has a great future with the Spurs. No, there's no cap. That's why this Q&A is here, right? I definitely want to do these Q&As for you guys every week so I can hang out and take as many questions as I can from you guys from the live chat. Thank you guys for hanging out. So I'm here to take as many questions as I can. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video. Go Spurs, go. So who's my favorite? Who's the new guy that I'm looking toward to seeing this season? I mean, if we're including the draft, right? So let's throw Primo in that mix. Primo, Doug McDermott, Zach Collins. That, I'm still interested to see what Thaddeus Young can do for us, right? So if I had to pick one, Landale is very interesting. When we picked him up, I immediately looked him up and I was like, yes. And I was like, because I had seen him, I had been seeing him play for Australia, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. I like his IQ. Landale, I need to see it. I would love to see him come in and be a big that doesn't get out rebounded in this league on the defensive end and can come in on the offensive end and just start moving that ball and start finding players, be a high IQ player, set good screens, find guys open, you know what I mean? Kind of like that Draymond facilitator, but who can also pop out a little bit and spread the floor. So I would like to see Landale too, but if I had to pick, I really am fascinated by man, if I have to pick one of these two guys, it's Doug McDermott and Zach Collins. Like both of those guys, I'm so fascinated to see how they complement the guys we have, right? How they complement Derek and DeJounte. Because I think when you start talking about players like that, veterans already in this league, guys that have the yang to the yin that we already had, right? We already had this young core developing, but they need help, right? They need that balance of floor spacing and length and athleticism. And I think, shooting, obviously, right? So, I'd have to say Zach Collins. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to say Zach Collins just because he can play the 4 or the 5. There was a lot. I went to look at Zach Collins highlight reels when he was with Portland, when he was healthy about 2 years ago, right? And I think that he played a lot of small ball 5 for Portland. And if that's a similar role for him here in San Antonio, and if he's like the primary backup for Jakob, maybe Drew or Zach Collins kind of fight for those minutes. But I really like the idea of Zach Collins and with his length and with his IQ, his skill set. I really like the idea of how he can complement some of the guys that we already have. I mean, it's the same answer for Doug McDermott, really, like how he can complement and space the floor for some of these other guys that we have on the roster that are killers at getting to the rim. Like we saw them do it all last season, right? You put Doug McDermott next to Kelden. Can Kelden have a lot more opportunities at the rim? Probably. Can DJ, same thing for DJ and Derek, right? So it's those two guys for sure. GM Funches says Landale has a chip on his shoulder, and I think we shouldn't sleep on him. He does have a chip on his shoulder. I don't really know the story behind that, but I'm very interested. I've heard him say that. I've heard him reference his past and mistakes that he's made that have kept him from the NBA. I'm not really sure what those things are. Now, he's been waiting for his opportunity, and he's been playing at a high level in Europe and just with that goal in mind to kind of erase his past and kind of start fresh and make some noise and come in and put a lot of doubters to rest and things like that. That's what I've been hearing from Jock Landale. And it's very exciting. I don't really know where it's all coming from, but there's definitely a chip on his shoulder there. You're absolutely right. ML Miles 1 says, if that is a plus defender and a stout rebounder, that will answer a bunch of our roster questions at the forward spot. You're absolutely right. And that's kind of why I like the idea of us holding on to him all season long. I don't care if he's on an expiring deal. We can let him walk. At the end of the season. That's fine. Maybe some people step up along the way, right? Like Drew and Luca, and they can kind of pick up where, he's leaving off. But I think he's a great veteran to let play on the squad and let people learn from. I think everyone gets better by playing with that. And Nick Yarbrough that was on the show last Thursday was saying that Chicago Bulls fans were very upset that they had to let him go, right? And that's a good sign. I was saying that's a good sign. Thank you for subscribing. Sovereign, is that Sovereign? Sovereign. Thank you for subscribing. Go Spurs go. Appreciate you. Sean Michael dropped a question. Thank you, Sean. We have overabundance of power forwards and centers this year. I wouldn't be surprised if one last big trade happens soon. Yeah, I definitely feel that as well. It's out there. The vibe's out there. Obviously, we need to move some players to get our roster to 15 going into training camp. We've already put Joe Wieskamp, our second round pick from this year, on a 2-way deal. So we can put someone else on a 2-way deal as well. Drew Ebanks' money 2 days ago, I think, became fully guaranteed. So you know that Drew Ebanks is probably not going to be one of those guys that gets moved, if you ask me. And definitely listening to that episode from At the Line, I definitely don't think we're moving on from Drew. I think we're keeping Drew around for a little while and maybe even offer him the next contract, that he gets in his career. I would like to see that. So there's definitely some moves that are going to happen. There's been reports that Thaddeus Young is on the market. So I think it's either one or two things. The Spurs are shopping Thad and saying, hey, what can we get for Thad? And teams are probably calling us saying, hey, what do you want for Thaddeus Young? We love Thaddeus Young. What can we do? So you start taking those calls. You start seeing what the market is. That takes time. So, I don't know. There's still something that's going to happen. Definitely, for sure. Okay. ML Miles 1 responds to Willie, says, I agree, but I think Lonnie is the single factor that will determine how much Lonnie plays. Yeah, Lonnie, the only one stopping Lonnie is Lonnie, if that's what you're trying to say. Yes. Even if Primo kills the G League, he will not take Lonnie's spot as long as Lonnie plays well. That's a good point, and I can totally see it playing like that. The Spurs, they operate like that. I don't think I think that they're going to give Lonnie his opportunity this season, right? I think that's kind of what you're saying. Like, if he plays well with it or does not, either way, they're going to let Lonnie make his bones, right? I think that's kind of what you're saying. All right. Domestic Cine says, I want Luca to be at least the backup for this season. This kid has the potential to be great. He has all the tools. He does. You have good eyes, Dominic. Is it Dominic? Dominic. He does. He has all the tools, man. All the tools. He has all the skills. It's very hard to find players in the league, honestly, who can do everything, meaning shoot, pass, and dribble, and play defense, right? To do those 4 things, like, it's very hard to find. Usually guys are only good at 1 or 2 of those things. Luca sneakily can do them all. He can dribble well. He can shoot the ball well. He has an IQ. He's a great passer, and he can defend, right? So Luca has all the potential in the world. We need to drop 2 players. Yes, we do. We need to drop 2 players. OTO says, I read a couple Spurs blogs. Can't remember fully, but Jock Landale played with the Hawks and Bucks summer league teams a while back. From what I remember, he declined playing in the NBA. Okay, maybe he just didn't get the opportunity that he felt he deserved, right? Maybe he went to go bet on himself in Europe, right? Maybe that's what he's doing. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions. Let me see. Willie asks, I'm not hating on Lonnie. Or you say, right? I'm not hating on Lonnie, but he is inconsistent. So if the Spurs have a backup shooting guard, Primo, and you don't want to commit money into Lonnie, you look for a prospect in Primo and a top 15 pick. Okay, so I think you're saying that if Lonnie shows that he's not ready for the opportunity, that Primo's there ready to play. I think that's what you're saying. All right, so great question, guys. Great Q&A, man. I've been hanging out here for about 40 minutes. Sorry for the little technical difficulty earlier on in the show. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Shout out to all the Patreon members out there. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Again, thank you guys for 2,000 subs. We're climbing our way to 3,000. Chant Go Spurs Go when you smash that like button down below. If you want to help this show grow, you're doing it right now by watching. Thank you for watching this episode. Like this episode, hit the bell so you can get notified when we go live or when we drop new content on the channel. leave a comment down below. Leave a comment in the live chat if you're watching live, and share this video. If you want to go way above and beyond, check the Patreon link in the description below. A lot of stuff going on with the Patreon. A lot of big announcements coming this week from our Order on the Court channel. That's the channel where we do Spurs post-game shows during the season, right? Should be a lot of fun this year. Got a lot of big plans, big announcements coming this week. So definitely go ahead and follow Order on the Court on YouTube. Definitely go ahead and follow us on Twitter as well for Order on the Court. It's OOCSAS. All right, guys. So also, last thing here is that reminder that the shows are Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. now, and we're going to try to do a Spurs Q&A with you guys every Sunday. Thank you guys for hanging out. Go Spurs go. The feelings are real. The Spurs Nation fever, I feel it, right? I think everyone's kind of dying down now from the summer league, and there's a little bit of lag, like in the content area for Spurs fans. But don't fret. Spurs Film Room's always here. Got a lot of plans. Got a lot of big announcements this year, man. So look forward to spending this whole entire season with you here and on our other channel, Order on the Court, doing post-game stuff for you guys. So thank you guys for hanging out. Go Spurs, go. And I'll catch you guys on Tuesday. Adios, amigos. Have a great day.
Hey, isn't we supposed to be having a fiesta?
Watch this.